What's up, rovers and 50-50 losers? I am kidding. Don't attack me. I'm being serious. I was joking. However, it is time for a serious topic. Cantarella, Camellya, Shorekeeper, or should you skip? My name is Mikey, and we will be discussing the best summon for you and your account. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so let's talk about economy. Now, this is a very important topic I want to go over because from a value standpoint, we need to look at these three characters and what's worth it for you and your position depending on who you are. Everybody's going to be different depending on the choices that they made up until this point, whether you are a new player or a returning player or a player that's looking to invest into a new unit, but you're not sure which character you want to go into. Now, this is assuming you have Verena. You may be in the market for your second support character, and that could be huge for you since in the second half we will be seeing Shorekeeper. I ain't even gonna lie to you guys, I'm gonna glaze the absolute hell out of Shorekeeper in this video. However, this does not mean that Camellya and Cantarella are bad summons for you, and we'll be getting into more of why I think that later on in the video. On that topic, you might be somebody who actually owns Shorekeeper already and may be in the market for a good DPS character like Camellya, who is still an amazing option for quality of the life open world exploration and so much more. Then lastly, we have the much awaited Cantarella, who did some crazy stuff during the trailer that probably had the gooners singing. I can't even lie. Now, in the first phase, it's going to be Cantarella versus Camellya. Then in the second phase, it's going to be Shorekeeper. So just keep that in mind. If you do plan on going for Shorekeeper, you actually have a lot more time than deciding between Camellya and Cantarella. It looks like so far, on the outside looking in, all characters are pretty good summons for the most part, which in my opinion is actually a super good thing. But at the same time, it actually kind of isn't. This means this is going to be some hard choices. So let's go over it. About 99% of you guys aren't subscribed. So if you are that 99%, smash the subscribe button and never miss a video. Thanks. Okay, so let's go over our newest addition to the Wuthering Waves roster, and that character is the first character from the Facilia family, Cantarella. And Cantarella is a new Havoc Rectifier user that gives us some swim and open world quality of the life features. Cantarella is going to be a very solid support character, especially for those of you gamers who are in the need of another support character that deals damage, so she can also be referenced as a sub DPS of some sort as well. She also applies bonus damage amplifications for Havoc DPS characters. Cantarella can also on her own dish out some decent damage numbers as well. I would say she's also very decent for free to play if you plan on or already have Havoc Rover built. However, at the same time, she's not good for long-term account investment, and let me expand on that because there's going to be more that we're going to get into later. But what I mean by this is that she's not really versatile in multiple teams because you can't really get the full benefit out of her unless if you are rocking those Havoc units like we mentioned before. Or as I said before, you built or are building Havoc Rover, then she might be a good pickup for you. Now, this is also a little complicated considering she's running against one of her best pairs at the moment, and I really want to highlight at the moment because I do really feel like Cantarella is going to be a character that's going to have a better DPS to pair for her. She also can be used with characters that builds lots of resident skill damage, kind of like Carlotta, for example. However, I still believe it's best value if you plan on picking up a Havoc DPS as your main DPS for that team. I also talked about in my last video about rerun characters in general, how you should think about summoning them as more from a general standpoint. In that video, I talked about one specific thing when it comes to Cantarella, as opposed to Camellya and Shorekeeper, and that is the fact that this is Cantarella's first run and Camellya's and Shorekeeper's first rerun. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, that means Camellya and Shorekeeper have higher summoning priority, so that is also something to take into consideration when thinking about who to summon for. Another important thing to take into consideration is that Cantarella helps with Team Concerto energy regeneration, which is another good support buff that she provides, and she also supports her team through her outro skill, giving them extra support team buffs. Overall, I would say she is a bit niche as far as characters that currently work with her. However, this does not mean that in the future there won't be more characters that she cannot pair with, meaning that it's very hard to scale how exactly valuable she will be down the line. However, I do believe when more people test out this character with other teams, especially when the new Havoc characters drop later down the line, she will be a phenomenal pickup for the longevity of Havoc teams. Next up, we got one of my personal favorite DPS in Wuthering Waves, and that's Camellya. Camellya should be looked at as a quality of the life type of open world explorer DPS character. Now, this is of course my opinion because she can bind herself in midair on vines and turn into a human Beyblade, or an anime waifu Beyblade at that. So she has lots of huge AoE potential, which is very good for open world farming given that quality of the life when clearing out the map exploration. On top of that, I know from personal experience how good she is overall, especially for endgame content, being able to deal that AoE damage, specifically talking about the Tower of Adversity. To add on to her attack, she can deal big burst damage numbers with both her resonance skill and her resonance liberation, duration. And it just doesn't end there. She's very good for other endgame content materials like the holograms as well. Camellya is a very capable DPS character. On that note, Camellya is a havoc element and wields a sword as well. Also, I would like to say Camellya is a very beginner friendly character because she honestly, in my own opinion, has one of the easiest kits to learn. Hence the holding the attack button and just spinning to winning. Another thing I really truly like about Camellya is with the spin to win attack mechanics, she does not need to access her burst skill AoE or ultimate to deal massive amount of damage, basically gaining extra value from her normal attacks as opposed to using her skills, which a lot of DPS characters in this game don't actually have. Also meaning she's not restricted as a DPS to deal massive amount of damage through just her abilities. I would say the main tough thing about getting used to Camellya is getting used to the limited availability you have while being held in midair. So this could be difficult for hologram bosses, for example, or basically a lot of enemies because they're able to attack you while you're basically up in the sky. Now this could be a problem because even though I did say her attacks are beginner friendly, you're gonna have to know the enemy's movements so that way you do not get punished in midair. So basically your defense will be a little bit difficult, but your offense will be easy to get the hang of. It's kind of like a pro and con Venn diagram type of thing. And in the middle of that Venn diagram, there's the best of two worlds. And that is you get an insane yandere type of personality, so I guess that's kind of a plus. However, never assume that you can fix her because it's just not possible. Alright guys, I ain't even gonna hold you. If you don't own Shorekeeper and you are trying to have a longevity type of character on your account, then Shorekeeper guys. Shorekeeper quite literally is one of the best supports in the game, if not is. Although that may be because there's not much competition to her besides Verena. And of course Verena is always accessible through free 5 stars at the beginning of the game or through a free voucher. However, if you are further in the game, Verena is still available to obtain through a 50-50 loss or by simply summoning on the standard banner. Also, Shorekeeper is a spectral rectifier user, except the key difference between Shorekeeper and Cantarella is that Shorekeeper is more usable and versatile in multiple team compositions, making that longevity that we talked about earlier very apparent. One of my favorite buffs that Shorekeeper provides is the fact that she gives crit damage and crit rate, which is absolutely absurd. Also, much like Verena, she provides an outstanding amount of heals, which makes her a very good sustainer. Another very important thing to note is that Shorekeeper doesn't lose damage amplification by switching to another character, making her value as a team player even better. Again, I just want to remind you that if you do end up choosing to not summon for Shorekeeper, this is her first rerun, making her high priority. So if you end up passing on her, she won't be back for a while. That's why if you don't have her, it's very important to decide if you want to take that risk. Now, of course, in my opinion, we are still waiting for another new insane support unit that is up to par with Shorekeeper and Verena, which I would definitely to assume that we will be getting another one soon since it's been a while. However, if you decide to skip and wait for another insane support unit, remember I am just basing my thoughts off conjecture, and you shouldn't base your summonings off my conjecture. Again, I'm gonna bring up my last video on reruns. In that video, I also went over power creep and how support characters have less of a chance of being power crept because they amplify base raw damage output on DPS characters or your main on-fielder. So this is also something you really should keep in mind. Honestly, this is no glaze. Wait, that's not right. I said I'd glaze her at the beginning of the video, but most players will say you must summon for Shorekeeper as she's one of the most not skippable characters in the game. And I personally 100% agree with that statement. I'm not gonna lie. If you're interested in what I'm gonna be doing, well, I am 100% skipping Cantarella because she's not a Montelli. And I won't betray Carlotta like that. Nah, I'm just kidding. In all seriousness though, I understand that Camellya is one of my main DPS and I didn't pick up Roshia, so I'm kind of selling my account. However, I personally do have Camellya, which means I do not need Camellya. I also have her sequence one with the weapon, so this makes my decision easy for me. The real reason I'm skipping Cantarella, besides the fact that she's Facilia, is the sole fact that she will get a rerun, so if I decide that I want to pick her up after all, she will get a rerun before the priority of Shorekeeper. And like I said before, I don't mind skipping Camellya because of what I got for her, even though Camellya is a high priority pick right now because she got her first rerun as well. Also taking into consideration how much Shorekeeper will provide for my account, I just really can't find the heart to give that up. I actually personally tried summoning for her before, but lost my 50-50. I actually personally tried to summon for her before I lost my 50-50 and decided to go for Camellya because she was personally my most anticipated character in the entire game. I got many of insane DPS characters. Just take a look at my roster. I got Jinshi, Carlotta, and Camellya. So do I really need more DPS at the moment? No, I do not. I should figure out how to improve my DPS stats in battle and implementing an insane support character like Shorekeeper. But what about you guys? Well, take a look at your account. It's important to play this safe. Cantarella will get a rerun. Keep that in mind. So if you missed out on Camellya and need a decent DPS character, character, then pick her up. However, remember you can use Havoc Rover, who is obtainable as a free character because of, yeah, main character plot armor or something like that. On the same side of that coin, if you have a built Havoc Rover, you can transfer echoes between the two and use them for similar builds. Just another thing to keep in mind. What I'm about to say is conjecture again, but I think that Cantarella is going to be a character that fully won't have value until a better Havoc DPS comes out that suits your kit. Kind of like how Zhizhe didn't have any place until the Demon Montelli Carlotta came out, and then they became one of the best synergies in the game as of right now. And I'm personally slacking because I don't got Zhizhe either, and she got her rerun, so I'm gonna be cooked for a while. So don't be like me. If you don't got Shorekeeper, I really think you should consider summoning for her and not skipping. But at the end of the day, I'm just a yapper that talks on videos and tries to help you guys push to your decision. It's your account. Do what you must. Well, those are my thoughts about the Cantarella, Camellya, and Shorekeeper banner. If I helped you with your decision, let me know in the comment section down below, or let me know what you decided anyways. Smash that like button, also hit the subscribe button to win your 50/50. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Peace out.